Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of FormFest. Today we're here to talk about a beginner's guide to the Salesforce connector, and we're very happy to have you with us today to learn more about connectors, troubleshooting, and advanced features. To go over some basic housekeeping before we begin, you'll be able to input any questions that you have as you follow along in the Q&A section, and we'll be sure to address those at the end with any time we have left. My name is Lauren Riddle. I'm the manager of Tier 1 technical support here at Form Assembly, and I'm joined by my colleague Tina Wang, one of our customer success managers. We're both so happy that you've joined us. To go over our set list for today, first off, we'll give you an introduction of Salesforce connectors, move along to a live demo of a step-by-step guide to set up a form submitted connector, then go through some common errors and basic troubleshooting steps that you can take to resolve issues, and lastly, another live demo of a use case showcase showing some more advanced features. So firstly, the Salesforce prefill connector is currently available to Essentials plans and aboves and allows you to retrieve data from your Salesforce org and display a pre-filled form to your respondents. Once you have set up a pre-filled link and a query parameter in your Salesforce prefill connector, you'll be able to pull information from Salesforce records directly into your form. This is particularly useful for ensuring that forms are pre-populated with existing data, reducing the need for respondents to re-enter information. Next, we have a way for respondents to save and resume their forms. You can use our Salesforce connector to automatically create and update records in Salesforce when a form respondent saves their form. This can be useful with long forms or anytime you'd like to send data to Salesforce when a form is saved. In order to use the Salesforce Save connector, you must have the Save and Resume feature enabled. Then you'll be able to add in the Salesforce connector to the save portion of the connector timeline. Once respondents save their form, they will receive an automated email with directions on how they can later resume their form. Moving along, the Salesforce Form Submitted connector in Form Assembly is designed to automatically create or update records in Salesforce when a form is submitted. This connector is highly useful for integrating form data directly into Salesforce, ensuring that your CRM is up to date with the latest information from your forms. Here, respondents will see any processing errors that might be occurring as it runs before the thank you or redirect step. You're able to configure error handling settings to determine what happens if the connector encounters an error during processing. You can choose to display an error message to the user or log the error for later review. Ultimately, you will choose the Salesforce object you want to create or update, such as a lead, contact, or a custom object. Lastly, we have the After Submit connector. This is designed to process data after a form has been successfully submitted and the user has been redirected to the thank you page. This stage is beneficial for ensuring that the user experience is not interrupted by any errors that might occur during data processing. It's important to note here that you cannot generate an object alias. The After Form Submitted stage is ideal for non-critical data processing tasks where user experience should not be impacted by potential errors. It allows you to handle errors internally without disrupting the form submission process. Next, I'll pass things over to my colleague Tina, who will show you a live demo of the Form Submitted connector. Take it away, Tina.
Thank you. Please let me know if you are not seeing my forms list. So to start, I would like to first show a couple of different ways of getting to the connector configuration page. Once you log into your account on the forms list, you can find the form that you're working on. You can hover over this configure button here, and then you can choose connectors here. Or you can click the build button here, and then you would open up the form in the form builder. And from the left-hand sidebar here, you can click connectors. Either way, you will reach this connector timeline page. As Lauren just mentioned, here at the form open timeline, you can add the prefill connector. This way, the prefill connector will run when the form is accessed. And for the form submitted connector, you can add it here. For the after form submitted connector, you can add it here. Now you may be wondering, what about the Save Progress connector you're not seeing in the timeline here? That's because I don't have the Save and Resume feature enabled on my form. But if you have the Save and Resume feature enabled on your form, you see the Save Progress connector timeline around here between form opened and form submitted. Today, we will add a form submitted connector. You just need to click on the plus sign, choose Salesforce, and then you will see the configure button here. You click on it, and then you will reach the configuration page in a couple of seconds. There we go. First, you will see the authentication section, because if you don't authenticate the connector, there's no way to push or pull information between Salesforce and form assembly. Now, since I have already created a token, I already authenticated the token before, my username is already listed here. So all I need to do is to click on it, and then the connector will be automatically authenticated. However, if you have never authenticated a token before, then you will see these three buttons on the page. If you're connecting to the production site, you will click connect to Salesforce. If you're connecting to a sandbox, you can click this button. If you're connecting using a custom domain, you can click this button. Now let me take that away, because I can just click this one, and then it will be automatically authenticated. Now, if you look at the status section, I would like to note that every time we add a new connector, it's automatically disabled. So remember to enable it. And at this point, it would be good to save, because our configuration page does not save automatically. So we recommend you click the save button here or at the bottom here often, so you don't lose your hard work. Now the connector has been authenticated, has been enabled, and then we're ready to start configuring. And you can click the select your first object button here, and then you will see this section. This is essentially asking, why are you setting up this connector? You can choose to create a new record, update an existing record, or look up a record. Today, we're going to update a contact record. Okay. And then you will see this lookup section. This is essentially asking, how do you want the lookup to work? I would like it to look up an email field. And that equals to, you can choose other operators as well, a field in my form, because I have an email field on the form. So I'm telling the connector to look up the email field by using the email that's filled out by the respondent in the email field on my form. If no match is found, I wanted to create a new record, but you can also choose to skip this object and any dependent steps, or end execution. If one match is found, then it will update this record, and this is by default, there's no other choice. But if multiple matches are found, again, you can choose to create a new record, update the most recent record, skip, or end execution. I'm going to update the most recent record. And then you can move on to the field mappings section, which essentially is asking, what do you want the connector to update? I wanted to update the last name field in the Salesforce with a field on the form that the value will be coming from the email field on the form. Or you can do other things as well. I'll just quickly show you. If you want to, for example, update the owner ID, you can choose a formula or text. And then you can just hard code the ID in the box. So once the form is submitted, this code that you just entered here will be pushed to the owner ID field in your Salesforce org. After you finish the few mappings, you can just save them so that you will have a cleaner look of the connector steps. And then you can move on to add an object that's dependent on contact. For example, I can create a case record for the contact record. Or you can add another object. For example, I can look up an account record. Now, once your connector has more than one step, you will see this Reorder Objects button here. If you click on it, it will show the streamlined structure of the connector. And if you want to move the steps around, reorganize the steps a little bit, you simply need to drag and drop the steps to the appropriate level. And then once you're done, you can click Done Reordering, and then you will see this step, Lookup Account Record step, was previously the second step. And now I just moved it to the first step. And you click Save. I would like to highlight a few other helpful features. For example, if you click on the button here, you'll see you can copy the object. If you are configuring a similar step, you just need to copy this object and then make modifications there. Or you can remove the object if you don't need the connector step anymore. Let's see what happens. Here, the lookup account step is gone. And now we only have the contact and case record steps. One more thing here, add a comment. If you are working on a complex connector, you want to leave a note for yourself on a later day, or if you're collaborating with your team, we recommend a good practice is to take notes, make notes in the connector steps. For example, you have multiple update contact record steps. One is to update primary contact, then you can just mark it here. And then maybe later you have another update contact record step that is updating secondary contact, and then you can make a note there too. So when you come back on the later day, you can easily tell what each step is for. Now again, save. One more thing, last but not least, I would like to point out at the bottom of the page here, if you open this section here, you see a few more options that you can give instructions to the connector to do. We have documentation on each and every one of these options, so I'm not going to waste time going through all of them here, but I just want to point out that they are here. You can look through them. So after we click Save one more time, we have finished configuring the form submitted connector today. So with that, I will pass it back to Lauren.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Tina. I really appreciate that demo. So next, I'd like to take you all through some common errors and basic troubleshooting that can be done to fix issues that you may encounter. First, we always suggest looking up the error message in our knowledge base or using our chatbot. You can often find the source or meaning of the error and how to fix it. Next, we encourage you to read the connector logs for valuable information on what step or steps are experiencing issues. Additionally, refreshing the schema in Form Assembly is a process that updates the list of available objects and fields from Salesforce in your Salesforce connector. This is necessary when you have made changes in Salesforce, such as adding new fields or objects, and you want these changes to be reflected in your Form Assembly form. Lastly, check in the Salesforce reference list by going to the top right of your Salesforce connector, choosing Go To, and then select Salesforce Objects Reference. Next, find the object that is listed as the source of the error. For example, your error might read, quote, create attachment -parent ID value of incorrect type. In this case, you would want to look at the object reference for the attachment object and find the field for the parent ID. Within the object reference, you'll be able to confirm the specific ID types that the field is able to accept. Moving along to our second point, if you're receiving the Salesforce error ID value of incorrect type, this means that an ID being sent to Salesforce is not the correct type that Salesforce is expecting. For example, some fields in Salesforce can only accept certain ID types, i.e., contact ID, account ID, etc. If you map a value of an ID for an ID of a different type, you will see this error. Additionally, if you're mapping an ID twice within your connector, you might see this error as well. If your error message is only showing one ID, for example, quote 2.1 create attachment dash parent ID value of an incorrect type, the best first step is to look at your Salesforce objects reference as previously mentioned. Lastly, we have our bad value for restricted picks lists error. This error can mean several things. We recommend checking the following possibilities to see if one might be causing this error. It's best to begin by looking at the mappings in your connector that are specifically mentioned in the error. First, you may have accidentally mapped a field twice in the Salesforce connector. Check through your field mappings to be sure that each field is only mapped once. Second, you may be sending a value to a pick list that is not one of the specified values for the pick list. You will need to check your send as values for each field and compare those to what Salesforce is expecting. Confirm that your send as values are spelled exactly the same as they are in Salesforce with proper capitalization and no leading or trailing spaces. Third, try refreshing the connector schema. Save your connector, then up to the top, select Go To, Get New Salesforce Objects, and Save. Fourth, check if the label and API name assigned for this record is exactly the same. Fifth, next, try using the API for the pick list value in the connector. Then, turn off the custom API in the connector. If you're using a global pick list in Salesforce, it used to be that whenever a new value was added to a pick list, you had to add it to the record type pick list manually. Now, when you add a new value, it asks you if you would like to add it global. Even with a global list, you do have to add that manually. To update a list, you need to go to the object's record type, then select the record type label, then edit the pick list that is available for editing in that list. As a last resort, you might try deleting and remapping the pick list that is causing the error. Additionally, within Salesforce, by unchecking the restricted pick list checkbox in the field settings, you may be able to circumvent this type of error. Now, before our next live demo, I'd like to highlight an advanced feature, how to prevent the same respondent from submitting multiple responses. Please note this is a two-form process. When using a redirect URL to redirect a respondent from one form to another, it is possible to pre-fill the second form with data collected in the first. This can allow you to simplify the form process for your respondents. You can also use this method to run a Salesforce pre-fill connector between the two forms and pre-fill Salesforce data into your second form based on the data from your respondent. Lastly, when set to enabled and located in the form submitted step of the timeline, the Salesforce connector will populate aliases for use in the server-side formulas, such as a thank you page displayed when the respondents complete a form. The object alias can also be useful if you would like to pass an ID value to a redirect link in order to pass that ID to another form. Now, I'll pass things over to Tina again to go over one more live demo of our advanced use case showcase. Take it away, Tina.
Thank you, Lauren. Let's say you have a registration form for a conference, event, or an application form, but you want to limit one response per respondent. I'll show you how to achieve the goal by using a seamless two-form process where your form respondent would not even notice that they're filling out two forms. So I have a full registration form here. I have the contact information. I'm collecting their address, their dietary preferences, the selection of accommodation, payment information, etc. So if you maybe your registration form has even longer, many more pages. So theoretically, we can put a text box at the top of the form saying that we only allow one response per respondent. However, there's really no way to stop them from filling out multiple responses. And then what you might end up doing is to go into your Salesforce and clean up those duplicate responses. So in this use case, I create another form, a much simpler form with just first name, last name, email address on it. And the idea is that I will share the link of this form with my respondents. And once they fill out the first name, last name, email, and click the submit button, they will, on the back end, there is a Salesforce connector that will look up their information to see if they can find an existing contact record. If they can find an existing contact record, the respondent will see a customized error message saying something like, sorry, you may not continue because you have already filled out a response. If the connector doesn't find any existing contact record, then the respondent will be taken to the full registration form that I just showed you. So here's how I do it in the form builder. First, I added the submit button on this form. For those of you who have not tried it yet, if you click on the submit button and click on options, under presentation, you can give a different name to the submit button. Here, I named it next page. This way, when the respondent submits the first form, this form here, they would not even notice that they have already submitted a form. You can also name it in another way or even use a different language here. Now, on the connector page, I added a Salesforce form submitted connector. As Lauren just mentioned, if we want to generate a Salesforce object alias, which we are doing in this use case, the connector must be placed at the form submitted timeline. So I added the form submitted connector here, and then I added a lookup step first. So I am looking up a contact record with email address on the form. If no match is found, I want the connector to continue creating a new contact record. However, if one match or multiple matches are found, I want the connector to skip dependent objects, in which case no new contact record will be created by this connector. Now let's move to the notifications page on the same form. I first enter this customized error message here. Sorry, you may not continue as you have already submitted a response. Then in the redirect URL here, I am using a formula. This formula is saying, if the contact object alias is blank, I'll go back to the connector quickly. Under what circumstances will the contact object alias be blank? When no new contact record is created. That is when one match or multiple matches are found. So for example, if someone has already filled out a response before, no new contact record will be created. So in this case, this error message here will be displayed. Otherwise, the respondents will be taken to the full registration form. And because I'm using a pre-filling link here, the first name, last name, email address will be pre-filled. So let's see how it's going to work for the respondents on the front end. Here, I have Snow White. She has already registered conference before. She has already filled out the full registration form before. And now she's trying to register for the second time. After she put in this information and click the submit button, what do you think she will see? So she will see this customized error message telling her, sorry, you may not continue as you have already submitted a response. Now, what if Teddy Bear? He has never registered before. So this is the first time Teddy Bear fills out the form. And when he clicks the next page, what do you think he will see? He will be taken to the full registration form with first name, last name, and email address pre-fill. And now he just needs to fill out the rest of the information and register for the conference. So to recap, in this use case, we are using a two-form process to prevent the same respondent from filling out multiple responses. And we are using Salesforce Submit Connector, Pre-fill Connector, Form-to-Form Pre-fill, Salesforce Object Alias, and customized redirect URL. So I know this is a lot of information. I added links to relevant documentation in the slides. I hope you give it a test after the event. If you run into any issues, just reach out to the support team and we'll be happy to help. With that, I'll pass it back to Lauren.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tina, for that demo. Now, before we wrap things up, I'll give you all a moment to click through and bookmark some of these featured links. We'd like to highlight some of our most useful help links covering Salesforce common errors, refreshing your schema, and connecting to Salesforce. So I'll give you all a moment to do so. Alrighty, and before you go, make sure that you use our Resource Center to see the new Salesforce connector in action, watch the HubSpot connector hit the stage, deep dive into document generation, and schedule time with our team to get personalized demo of new features and bring them to your account. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, remember to check out the Form Assembly Academy at academy.formassembly.com. It's a completely free resource that will help you up your form building skills. Lastly, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on the support team. We are always happy to help and are here for you 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. And using the time we have left, we'll take a few questions now.
So I'm seeing the first question here. How do we troubleshoot issues where there are no errors, but the form isn't sending field values back to Salesforce? This could be, there could be multiple factors that would lead to this type of issues. The best way I would say is to reach out to the support team, provide the form ID or form link. If the form is published, please provide the published link. Also, if you are Essentials Plan and above customers, please provide access grant. And then also let us know if we can test and clone the form for troubleshooting. And then once we get that information, we'll take a closer look to see what exactly is causing the issue on the form, because everyone's forms setup is different. Salesforce organization setup is different. So it's really hard to tell, without testing and looking at the form. So provide the detailed information to the support team so they can take a closer look would be my suggestion.
Perfect. Thank you. And it looks like we have time for one more question from Lynette. Can I test in Sandbox and then switch the form to production? Yes, you definitely can test your form and connectors in a Salesforce Sandbox, then switch to production. You'll want to connect your Salesforce Sandbox, test thoroughly in the Sandbox, and then once testing is complete and everything is working as expected, switch the Salesforce connector to production mode. That ensures that the data will be sent to your live production instance. So yeah, you are able to do that. And that looks like that is all the time we have for today. Thank you all for your thoughtful questions and participation in today's presentation. We hope you all have a wonderful day.
Bye. Have a good day.